Okay, welcome to the show, guys. We are looking at a risk on day so far. FTSE 100 is pushed right back up to these weekly pivots. I have to say, slightly concerning. I took a trade here yesterday, another short, but I haven't come out of it. I'm still in. I'm waiting to see what happens here, but it doesn't look too positive right now. It has to be said. I mean, we might drift back to this daily pivot. Might be the time to close that off and wait for some data. Interesting that we've got really different tides pulling the markets in opposite directions. We've got GDP out later on at 1:30, and we have got this G20 meeting as well, which is causing a few issues. Now let's have a quick look across around the grounds and see what we're talking about here. So S&P currently trading higher, and yeah, I mean it might find some resistance at this weekly pivot as well, but so far it is trading higher. It's managing to hold on to the gains that it has enjoyed, and it might be all the way up to this point. That looks kind of a natural point in many respects, because we have this may well start to run into this trend line here. So I'm looking at that. What I'd love to do is just drift these stops down a little bit. This doesn't look like it's a potential point there that it may resist. So we got the S&P currently drifting higher. We have got the Dow Jones Industrials also drifting higher, again at a potential trend line hold at this point here. So again, not too far away on the Dow Jones. We have the Euro Stocks Index 50 currently higher as well. That one hasn't really captured up very well, but let's have a look at the DAX. Sorry, the CAC on. Now, is that a genuine gap, I wonder, with the CAC on? Looks like it could well be. China has enjoyed some upsides, just starting to weaken just a shade here, but having another hold as we open into the UK session. We got the DAX also breaking back to the upside, inverted head and shoulders here, which looks like it's playing out right on the neckline. I'm still a little bit suspicious of any moves to the upside, really, because of this G20 meeting. There's no real meat on the bone. But if the market wants to move forward, then in some respects we're going to have to think about how to either go with it or just stay out of the way. This is the Hang Seng. Also moving higher on the day. The Nikkei is moving higher on the day and looks like it's having a fairly decent turnaround and break to the upside. And when we kind of just finish up with the Nasdaq is also moving higher. So the stock market is in bullish spirits currently. It's in pretty confident spirit currently. So that's really kind of filtered in from the the Asian session. Now let's just quickly check gold as well. Yeah, gold weakening somewhat here. Now, the gold story, just like most other things, is nowhere near binary. It's not just about dollar weakness. It's also about protection and how people can protect their portfolio. So gold starting to weaken. Maybe that's the trade. Maybe looking at some gold weakness just on the short term might well be the trade. If we start to break to the upside, that could be a little hedge of any downside that you have in the market, any shorts you have in the market. Bitcoin yet again flying this morning, but again, it looked to me like Bitcoin could well be a story of protection, but it didn't seem like that yesterday. Towards the end of the day, we started to see Bitcoin weaken, and really that's what was going on. And let's just double check this. It's the very last hour of the day. Now I'm not sure what time this is generated, whether Bitcoin does stay. That's at 9 o'clock. Yeah. So as the FTSE 100 was weakening, and the S&P were weakening yesterday, Bitcoin was also weakening, which I am a little bit surprised with. I'll bring back the S&P. You see this S&P this is the very last bar of the S&P. So in relation to Bitcoin, and the S&P was drifting down consistently, but decent hold yet again takes us back into positive territory, and that's really what happened right across the board. World markets have reacted fairly positively to a suggestion that the trade talks would be resolved. Now, there's nothing as yet that will drive this market down, and speculation is will tend to be for
Boy on the rumor, mate.
how you doing, buddy? Yeah, the speculation, yeah, it's going to be, it's always going to be bullish, isn't it? The way that the FTSE 100 tends to work is that it's more likely to sell off on a fact and buy up on the speculation and a fact. So that's why that the markets tend to go up more than they go down, because it needs facts to go down more often than not. But people want to own stocks, so they aren't just going to give them up unless they've got decent reason to. And I guess maybe that's what we're looking at here. When we're looking at buying into the G20. And waiting until the G20 is resolved, and there's a bit of a kind of curb of nervousness now, because the rhetoric coming from the United States was, I suppose, fairly positive. It started negatively. Interesting yesterday. We had the FTSE 100 starting to drift to the downside at the back end of yesterday. And I took a short up here because Donald Trump came out and said that he's going to put some more tariffs on China if he doesn't get the deal that he wants. But that didn't really filter through. I'm looking for something that's really going to kind of crash this market, but it's just not willing to do so. It's just it's happy to hang on. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like the G20 is going to be all encompassing. It seems to be that will probably be the catalyst to either take us potentially higher, break through these levels, or take us low. I'm not sure how much higher there is to go, but you have to kind of trust that that people will be happy to take the brakes off this one at these particular levels if the G20 meeting works out positively. And I'm still a little bit suspicious of whether it will. I mean, this is Donald Trump across the table, and that's why I've got my reservations. But that doesn't necessarily mean to say
he'll probably walk out after a few minutes.
Yeah, and there's every chance of that, isn't there? I suppose at the back of Donald Trump's mind is the presidential race. However, I think with Donald Trump, when it comes down to what's at the back of his mind, he's probably more likely to have that at the forefront of his mind when he has his advisors around him. But when it's just effectively him and Xi Jinping sat around the table, I think that's going to be a completely different kettle of fish. He won't necessarily have the time to sit, to stand back and consider a position. I think he's probably more likely to have a reaction, and as you say, potentially even walk out. You just don't know with him, do you? What could happen? So I'm a little suspicious of the upside.
Fair idea. I've got a fair idea. It's my way or the highway, and if you don't like it, I'm leaving.
Yeah, well, I mean, do you think that the fact that he's in his presidential year could actually maybe change that? Because his rhetoric seems to have softened a little bit since the almost to the day that the year kind of started ticking. I mean, I think he's probably likely to go back to form at some point and eventually, but
I kind of try to get inside his head, and I know that's a wonderful mystery tour. But
yeah,
when I think about it, I think, why the hell would he want to be president again anyway? And obviously he's running again, so that answers the question, or it doesn't answer the question, but it certainly poses the fact that he is thinking, well, he's intent on running again. Let's put it that way. But
Yeah.
why is my question. And I guess if he's going to fund it with his own money, then he's going to want to win. But if he's funding it with someone else's money, I don't think he'd give a toss if he got if he lost.
Do you know what though? I mean, I think Donald Trump's ego is such a huge driver of his character that I think a lot of the reason that that somebody like him wants to be president is a lot down to ego. I think he's very similar to Putin in that regard. I don't necessarily think he's in politics to try and do the right thing. I think he's in politics to do the right thing for Donald Trump, which ultimately is probably about power. It's a status symbol, isn't it? And as a really kind of prominent alpha male, you can kind of see sort of how prevalent that is in his personality. I think that's probably as much down to the reason that that he wants to be president than anything else. It's the kind of pinnacle job of any American. So he's the most powerful man currently in the world, and for someone like Donald Trump, that I would say probably has a lot of sway in the decisions that he makes.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure he doesn't mind that handle at all. He's
yeah,
quite comfortable in that skin, I'm sure.
yeah,
But again, when I think about it, I think, yeah, okay, the potential for personal gain here through deals is probably not such a bad thing.
yeah,
The thing that really I would say is if I'm him, I'm going to go, oh really? Let's get out of here. Is look, eventually they're going to make this mud stick at some stage.
yeah,
And do I really want to be impeached? Do I really want to go through a court process because they're after me and they'll get me?
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I question it. I just wonder
He's
why.
not he's not really a rational thinker though, is he? I mean, I don't know whether he would see the rationality of that. I think Donald Trump just has got this thing where he pretty much believes he's bulletproof, and actually it's probably taken him quite a long way. The fact that he doesn't have those hang-ups, and concern about what other people think of him. So I think the fact that he has got this kind of bulletproof nature about him probably it's a huge strength, but at the same time, as you rightly point out, it's a huge weakness because he probably won't see it coming, or he doesn't see it coming. Everybody else can see it coming. Everybody in the world can see that coming. That they were after him and they'll get him, I guess, in the end. But I mean, what is it now? 3 years and they still haven't got him. I mean, it's something quite.
Absolutely incredible.
It's fascinating, isn't it? He's like Batman. He always seems to manage to kind of get out of whatever trap that he seems to be embroiled in, and he uses very simple tactics to do it. He just calls it fake and moves on. It's quite astounding, but I'm still really, this is kind of back to the suspicion that I have that there will be a deal. I think that there's deeper and far further running problems between China and the United States, and some of it is certainly about Donald Trump not wanting on his watch to oversee China overtaking the United States as the most prominent global player. But I think that there's probably some advisors there and some other Republicans who are genuinely worried about maybe some human rights issues and other aspects of the Chinese story. So I guess because of that, whatever deal is going to be done has to be something that he can probably genuinely be quite proud of and quite pleased that he's accomplished. I don't think he's going to back down, but by the same token, I don't see why or that Xi Jinping will back down either. I don't know why they would need to be in that position. Because they are at the minute the kind of main player. They are the biggest power that they're out there, and or certainly they are growing, and there's many aspects of their economy and their world status which is the biggest power. So I think it is genuinely kind of like two stags going up against each other, and I can't see anything but a standoff. some kind of standoff. I'm not sure. One of them has to back down, and I'm not sure why China would.
Mm.
And unless they do, I don't see a deal being done because Donald Trump will never back down. It seems. It doesn't seem like he's going to give any concessions.
No, you'd be stunned if he suddenly said, "Oh, okay, we'll forget about the tariffs. That's all good. You go about your business, and we'll just go back to normal."
Yeah,
That's not going to.
yeah. Because when it comes down to him, he will give something but take something away in the next breath. He kind of like he seems quite happy to kind of give concessions one day, but then make sure that it's not being seen that he's being weak by saying there's a deal that's going to be done, and then everybody's kind of calm, and then within in the next sentence almost. But if there's no deal done, then all hell's going to break loose. That's effectively his approach.
Yes, and he says, "Look, they had a beautiful deal on the table. They didn't take it.
Yeah,
They're idiots.
yeah,
Not my fault. It's not my fault we're stalled." And that's
yeah.
always his attitude.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So, well, but kind of back to looking at how that's going to affect this market. The market is certainly in bullish spirit today. So far, I think that we've got an important data point later on, which could actually shape things. This is where why is that not opened? Not sure what happened there.
Yeah, the GDP.
Yeah, GDP, which from what I gather is actually potentially coming out as positive.
And on par with previous, is what they're saying.
On par with print. So if we're effectively looking, this is the GDP here, that they might even have. That I did actually hear a report earlier that there was 3.2% growth, so it might even be a slight beat on the GDP. And if we are looking at a slowing world economy that is requiring some stimulus, then a stronger GDP print will not help that case. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting day in some respects. If Donald Trump keeps quiet, then there's every chance and suggestion that we get some positive moves in the market. But I think if we get a positive GDP print, then there may be some negativity out there as people question whether central banks are likely to move even in July. We're kind of stacking up data. And the last data print was the business confidence. I think is that right? Let's have a look. No, core durable goods was yesterday. Yes, core durable goods orders yesterday, which came in better than expected, 0.3% over a forecast of 0.1, previous at 0.1. So minus 0.1, sorry. So the core durable goods index has come out slightly better than expected. We had CB consumer confidence actually was weaker than expected. So the consumer out there doesn't believe in the state of the economy, but the other numbers so far aren't pointing to some weakness. So that's the other thing is that I'm questioning what's going on here, and I'm questioning whether central banks are likely to move. They seem really keen to wait. They seem really keen to be data dependent, and make sure that they move at the right time. So that could be a story of the day as well.
Room in most of them. That's one of their issues. If we're talking interest rate cuts, there's not a whole lot of room left if they go again.
Yes.
They're starting to talk, and I know there are people out there shouting zero interest rates in Australia and New Zealand. Maybe I don't know, but I would think they'd want bad news to stack up, as you said, before they're going to cut. Because of that reason, their wriggle room is getting very, very tight.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, here's the final GDP number today, and then as I say, yesterday we had core durable goods orders coming out better than expected, and now that was at 1:30, so 3:30 on the print here, and I'm just going to show you how the market reacted to that particular announcement. Then when we come in at this one here, this was the when the data was released, and we also really had some news and data from the, sorry, not news and data, news from the United States then, but that did actually drive the market to the downside. So I think that maybe we get a pause around about this weekly pivot. This trend line up here is really the concern. That's only 12 pips away from where we currently are. So the trend line is a slight concern. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see the market push into this area and then start to come down, rather than getting caught here. But this area has proved to be fairly solid so far. You know, we've seen a resistance point here. We've seen a resistance point here. Maybe we get another one here. But so far the market is fairly positive, so we may well push into this point here, and then start to look for some further weakness. But let's see what happens in the first 15 minutes of the day. I've got a short in the market at this particular point, but I have got a stop. So the stop might has probably got a greater likelihood of being triggered. Yesterday we have this bar, which I thought was again quite interesting. This bar here, one back here, quite an interesting bar in the end. You know, we had a fairly positive first half of the day, but then it really did start to move back to the downside, and it has created something that looks like a shooting star. It's obviously not in the right place for a shooting star, but that does express that there is some weakness in this area. There are sellers in this area. It just depends on whether those sellers have got a reason to kind of kick themselves back in again, or whether they're getting a little bit tired of selling off the market and then it kind of buying back up again. But really, you know, that's coming down to the fact that some people have still got those, they're still holding their stock. So the people that have either cleared out here and bought back, do they clear out again, or do some more people join them? Are there more market participants joining them? So far, it's not suggesting that there is, but let's wait and see anyway, mate. Let's see what happens in the first 15 minutes of the day. When we look at the 4-hour chart, the 4-hour chart I think is arguably in a very, very tight uptrend. You know, we are kind of like still within this range here, this point here. So that's that upper trend line that I was illustrating earlier. So we are in this tight range, but really from this point we kind of we get a level of resistance, but we hold, we go through that resistance, close, and then we hold, and then we go back up it again. The difficulty here is these long tails. You know, we know that there's weakness here. It's expressed in the charts here that there's weakness up here. So the close prices don't become, in a way, so trustworthy. You know, it's harder to trust them. But this is indicative of a pattern, and it really does depend now how the pattern plays out. It could break to the upside and give us another leg higher, or it could start to break to the downside and start something which is actually quite I guess quite significant, because you know of where we are in the business cycle. If the breakdown happens here, we could actually be going into a bearish longer term trend. A break to the upside probably just means another leg higher, but you know, and then we wait until the next potential data point, because I think people are looking to probably take profit, you know, with their positions, but they just haven't really got any real reason to do so as yet. The numbers have continued to be fairly solid. When the numbers have, and I say that in relative terms, but when the numbers have proved to be that little bit weaker, then we've had central banks kind of coming out and saying that they will stimulate, and that they've got tools to be able to do that. So they're not suggesting that they are out of bullets by any stretch. So what's going to drive this lower? And the only thing that I've got to go on really is G20. So, you know, after G20 happens, if it's a positive outcome, you know, what's going to be next, mate? It's difficult to say. You know, we could be waiting until earnings next year before this market really comes back and takes a proper breather.
Yeah, I don't really know what will do it. Maybe it is G20. Maybe we have a war. I don't know. But at the end of the day, when I look at that chart, I think what happens next, once that range is broken, is going to be substantial.
Yeah.
From you know, just a technical point of view, but
yeah,
from a fundamental point of view, got no idea. as you
Yeah.
say, out G20, what is there next? Well, the only thing there is then next is Iran, Korea or North Korea, things we've really put on the back burner, I suppose.
Yeah. Well,
In
the other
some,
thing is that if G20, the next focus is going to be about the Fed, isn't it? But even if the Fed doesn't lower interest rates, because they've kind of hinted that they will at some point, would people be that negative on that? If they kind of come out and say, well, because the numbers have to be decent for them not to raise those interest rates. So even if they don't, sorry, for them to lower the interest rates, even if they don't lower, that suggests the numbers are good enough for them not to really have to worry about it.
yep, and the market has spoken on that already. As you say, there shouldn't be too much of a reaction to that, unless, of course, they then, well, what could they say? No, actually, the numbers are really good. We're going to raise interest rates. Can't see that happening, but you know,
Oh
strange.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, as you say, stranger things have happened, but that would be highly, highly unusual and irregular. And it's really interesting. I was listening to Jerome Powell the other day. Actually, have you got anything you need to look at?
Not really. I've got the big R word today. I think it's reversal day.
Okay,
Maybe
all
a
right,
day
mate.
early.
Well, I'm interested just to see what you got there on that, and then we'll talk a little bit about Jerome Powell and just a comment on him that made me think the other day. But yeah, let's have a look at that. What you got?
Let us do. I will attempt to take the screen. And 1, 2, 3. Alakazam. Hopefully you'll see my screen in just a tick. Okay, so we'll start with the Aussie. And the Aussie, I still can't see my screen on the. Yeah, there it goes. On the Aussie, the reason I'm thinking reversal day is that primarily I don't agree with the strength in the Aussie, and we are at or very very near to that magic number again, which is 70 cents, which has repelled price very dramatically. What, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? Yeah, something like that. 2.5 weeks ago. So, okay, of course we can break through it, but why would we break through it is my question. And the only answer I've got to that is dollar weakness. Is the dollar going to be that weak for that long? Is this the next question I have? And if I look at again, I can't show you the dollar index, but the dollar index is telling me that we have, I won't necessarily say bottomed, but we've gone through a support level and now coming back at that support level. So I'm thinking there is going to be a dollar rally. How big and how far and how strong? Great question. But I'm thinking today is potentially as good as it's going to get for Aussie US dollar. So I'm looking for downside here. I've actually got an order in the market. I was trading this bar here. I've got an entry. Well, you can see my entry. There it is right there. And my stop was above this candle, but I might like to move that. Depends on what happens here. If this just simply goes to this resistance area and the double top, then I'll probably cancel the order and look for a better entry. But if we do go from here, then it's probably wise to put my stop above this level. I'll have plenty of time to do. Well, I think I'll have plenty of time to do that, barring a shock news announcement. So bearish the Aussie because of the resistance area that we are currently at, and the fact that I don't think it warrants being above 70 cents. Cable is next, and looks very much like we are. Well, it's an oddball, head and shoulders, but it's kind of there for me. And when I look at these shapes, I think euro dollar, because euro dollar's been in a similar position to this for the longest time. I can't even remember when we started talking about this. Let me go there. In fact, on the weekly chart, you can see We can't probably at the moment, but as soon as I put this on there, you will be able to see. Pretty much exactly the same thing as I've drawn in the opposite direction, obviously, on the Aussie. So we've been in this channel, if you like, forever. It started, I guess, if you use the right shoulder as the start point, we've been in there since October last year, and it refuses to break that level, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. So if I convert that over to, sorry, not the Aussie, the pound, then I've got to be thinking the bottom of my range, which is this blue box. Let me expand that for a minute. Where we've been travelling up and down again since August of last year. A couple of false breaks here and there, and the high side. But here we are again. We've gone back inside that range, and we've retested the bottom of that range, oddly enough, at the weekly pivot. So I've got to be thinking that there's a long on here somewhere. And again, that goes to my big R day where I think we're going to potentially reversals. As I say, it may not be today, it may be tomorrow. Who knows? But what I'm seeing is a weekly pivot at a confluence area. And I know this is not my normal chart analysis, if you like, or certainly not my chart tools, but there I see it, and there it is. So even if I were to take that out, I've still got a trend line coming through here. So that's a strategic support level for mine. And if we were to come and break that, then get back above it and retest it, I'd be all over this long for sure. But do I need to see that? Is the next question, and I think the answer is well, no, I really don't. But I'd prefer to see that. That's the way I trade. If I look at the smaller time frames, I can probably make a case for trading off resistance as well, and that would look something like that. And we are now looking to break that little trend line that I've put on my chart. I'll make it a little bit skinnier. So I can actually make a case for trading this long off this line. Not right now because it's already on the way. What I'd like to see probably is take out this high, pull back and retest trend line and the daily pivot. That's going to be a bullish signal for me, and I don't see any reason why I wouldn't be able to trade that. So again, going with my theme of the day, potential reversals here. Well, reversal of what, I hear you say? Well, reversal of this downtrend, basically. And if you look at that channel that I've just put on my chart, it is a continuation pattern, right, at this level. And it did break, but it's now proven that to be false. If I look at the bottom of this channel, we've come below it, we've consolidated, we've got back above it, and now we're retesting it. This has got buy written all over it for me, and so I'm a pound bull. But as I said to the guys in the morning show this morning, how resilient can you be trying to trust the pound as a buy? Because it's been so sad, for so long.
Yeah.
The only thing I can do is trust the technicals, and the technicals are telling me that this is a buy zone, and I need to be very, very aware of that and look very, very closely at every opportunity that may come up. So I'll do exactly. What do you think, mate?
Well, do you know, I guess I thought quite an interesting comment from Boris Johnson over the last few days, which was that he says that a chance of a no-deal Brexit are 1,000,000 to 1 against. So he's effectively kind of coming out and saying that that it's just unlikely. It's the likelihood is so slim. It's so slim that that's going to happen. That there is going to be a deal. So that's what the market needs. I think the market needs somebody. Well, it needs Boris Johnson to really calm what he's been saying about leaving on the 31st
regardless, yeah.
Of October, yeah, regardless of a deal or not. And if he continues with a kind of softer language, then he's not in office yet. But if he continues with a softer language, with a run up to him getting into office, then it really could help the pound out, I think. And I agree with you. That there are signs that the pound could start to strengthen here. When I look at the daily chart, then there might be a case to be made that we need to see a right shoulder before really seeing this pound move significantly. I know that that's not the sort of time frame that you're looking at, but I like yesterday's bar. I like yesterday's hold, and I also like what's going on with the 4 hour with the pound. Maybe a hint of a head and shoulders pattern, but I wouldn't read it that way. I think maybe a higher high on the hourly would make me feel a bit more comfortable about it, but. Yeah, I mean, bouncing off the weekly pivot above that daily pivot, it looks pretty good to me. I'm in agreement with you, and I don't know why the pound would necessarily drive down off a Boris Johnson scenario at this particular time, because, yeah, as I say, he's kind of calmed himself a little bit. He's calmed down a little bit. He's not kind of not being so vicious about the pound. So about Brexit, as I say, sorry. So I don't see why we wouldn't get some upside here with the pound, really.
Yeah, well, the only thing, as I said, is it's really hard to catch. And if you do manage to catch it, you'll get a good ride on it eventually. But it could be costly trying. I've tried twice to get this above here. That one was a loss. That one was a small win. But pardon me, you've got to be resilient, and you've got to be willing to take this on when it does set up. And to me, it's almost there right now. All I need to see is a couple of things that look slingshotty, and away we shall go. So it's again potential reversal for me today. Euro exactly the same, not of course in the same position, but if we have a look at the daily chart, big bear engulfing bar there 3 days ago. That was what, Tuesday? Yep, Tuesday. Look, we haven't had a real retrace on that, to be absolutely frank, and that's what I would like to see. I don't know what the level is, however, so it has to be a pivot, I guess. I don't see an obvious horizontal level or a trade line, and well, this trend line as well would suit the bill. At the moment, I've got a scenario where I've got a genuine slingshot set up on a support trade line, but gee whiz, it's high risk, and the reason it's high risk is you're trading straight into this double top. You're trading straight into DS1, your entry here, of course. And you're trading straight into the immediate low. Tough call. What I'd really like to see is price get up to here, consolidate back underneath, retest the confluence area of daily pivot and resistance trend line, then go. I totally see the weekly pivot though. I think that's really a decent place to look for a trade. And I also see this level here. Why do I see that level here? That's a good question. Let me go a little bit wider. Oh, that's why. Because it's a strong support level and a strong resistance level. So I can see both of those levels, and it wouldn't upset the cyclicity of this in any way, shape, or form. You've still got the double bottom, higher low, higher low, higher high, higher high, higher low can come all the way down here before that cycle's upset. So I'm looking for a deeper retracement on euro dollar. It may not happen, but I'm definitely looking for it. And I think weekly pivot is more likely than this horizontal level. Whether this level, which is 112, 65-ish, whether that level is more likely than the weekly pivot is debatable. But I think I'd start looking for a long here.
Yes.
And if it doesn't present, then I'd start looking for a long here. Well, I'd definitely be looking for a long here. I wonder if we got any confirmation of that.
Yeah. Well, do you know the other thing? I was just looking at that. What price does the high on June the 4th coming through with a trend line to the
June the 4th.
yeah. Is it June the 4th? No, sorry, December. December. I'm sorry, excuse me, mate. December the 21st. Is it that high up there?
This one?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. If there was a trend line that came down, does that lead us back to that kind of weekly pivot area as well?
Through there it does.
Yeah, that's the one I'd look at.
Yeah, it probably even looks better if you go down one more.
Yeah, that looks pretty tight, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think that's minimum retracement for me.
Yeah.
What did the Fibbo say on that? I think Fibbo had something to say about that too. Yeah, that's about 38.2. The next one's bang on 50. If I pull it from there, if I pull it from the recent low.
Yeah, that's where I would be looking at, because that does take it a little bit lower, doesn't it? But that's the trend. That's the current kind of move, if you like. That's the current move to the upside. So that would suggest that a Fibonacci retracement on the current move would be. Oh, look at that! I mean, that's right on.
Bang on here, and
Yeah,
it's not. Yeah, it's somewhere between 38 and 50 here, but this
yeah.
one's bang on 61.8. So,
But what about that weekly pivot? I mean, that looks like a pretty good area, doesn't it? Is that the fib? Oh no, that's not a fib, is it? Sorry, that's your. Yeah,
that's the trend line, right? So
yeah.
I've got a trend line and weekly pivot there. I've got a trend line and a Fibbo in this vicinity. That's probably a fair way off, but yeah, I'm not thinking long until we get to at least the weekly pivot. I don't think I'll look at it here, but I'll be looking with far more interest at the weekly pivot. Now that said, if I'm that confident we're going down here, can I trade it? Of course, short is the next question, and the answer is always going to be yes, as long as I've got reason so to do. And let me take a look at that.
You got a pound pushing higher as well currently, but yeah, go on.
Don't be like that, mate. It's got to wait. Not, so we've got the right recipe here. We've got a nice little trade line. And wow, I'm thinking this is not where I want to trade from, but I'm thinking this looks likely if it gets through here and gives me the. Did I already mention this? Maybe I did. If I didn't, I can't use my pen. I forget which webinar I'm in. 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, find DR1, right? Get through this resistance trade line. Find DR1, consolidate a bit, get back underneath, retest the pivot, retest the trade line, and away we go short. That's where I'm at on euro dollar for the aforesaid reasons. Now I do not want to see. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. On pound Aussie, I've been bullish all week and just can't find a way in. Now there's two ways to look at this. As I said many times this week, this is a genuine retracement on a downtrend. The trend is not strong; it's only coming off the top and reaching the bottom, but it is and does have the potential to break short. It's already done that, but I'm thinking this level here is strong enough to put us back into this position. And if we can get back above here and retest that, as long as we've got profit before the weekly pivot, then I'd be happy to trade this all the way back up to here. This is pound Aussie. Again, going on my theme that the Aussie is weak. Or no, sorry, the Aussie should be weak. I can't think of a reason why it's not, but there you go. It is. It is strong, rather, or has been strong. In fact, it's one of the strongest currencies, along with the CAD and the Kiwi, which suggests that we're talking commodities here. That will change, and as I said, today may be that day. And if it is, then I'll certainly be looking to trade this as a break back and retest of that trade line. So pound Aussie is one of my faves. That's one of the ones I'm looking at. Interesting when I look at this one, Aussie yen, underlining yen weakness. And for the life of me, I can't think why that's the case, but it is. We appear to be in a risk on attitude.
Yeah, we do.
We do. and that's very evident on this cross. Too far gone for me to trade it right now, but again, with my little theme today being potential reversal, look where we are. So that's a perfect scenario for me to trade short if I can find a false break here. So again, I'm looking for break, consolidate, back underneath, retest. It's a reasonable looking horizontal level. I wouldn't say it's the greatest on the planet, but it's a reasonable looking one. And we can come back and retest the top of that channel, number one. We've got an untested daily pivot, number two. We've got a strong horizontal level through there at 75 cents as well. 75.00. And I think that's probably one of the trades of the day if it does set up. I don't see this going too much farther without a decent retracement. Yes, I can see an untested monthly pivot here. Yes, I can see liquidity here, but we've gone a long way in a very short space of time. So definitely looking for this to retrace, and I can't think of a better place to get out of here than the daily pivot. So let's hope that sets up. What else have I got to look at? Euro Aussie, well, I'm going to be a bull on that too, but I don't see anything apart from this level through here that kind of excites me. Haven't got any trade lines. Well, I do. I suppose I could put this one in. Or even move it up to here, actually. But it's still not compelling. So, no, it's kind of no man's land for me, Euro Aussie. Euro pound, well, it was setting up beautifully. This is the one we took. When did we take that? On Tuesday. That was the one that failed on us. And as I said at the time, there may well be a better price, but gee whiz, I'm not getting filled with confidence here as I look at this chart. Lots of low test bars telling me that the price does not want to come to this area. We got a break back of this trade line earlier. And I was looking for a bull bar here. We've got an hour and 40 minutes left in this, so it could rally. And for that reason, I'll be still looking at it. If it does, that's an entry right there. But if it stays as is, there's no entry for me. So 4-hour chart, Euro pound, I'll be looking at. It's a little bit tough at the moment on the 30-minute chart. That's the 4-hour trade line. We don't want to see that on the 30-minute because it just ain't working on a 30-minute chart. Oops, wrong way. So what have we got here? We've got that. And really, I suppose that's as good as that's going to get as well. You can see what price is doing at the moment. It's deciding whether it wants to go long or short, and it can't make up its mind. So it's just going to hug this daily pivot for a bit, so it would seem. No news at the moment, is there, mate?
No, not as yet. I mean, I wonder whether there could be some positioning for this GDP a print later on, kind of going on, but nothing is breaking.
Yeah, okay. So this is a little bit of toing and froing, as I say, testing resistance, testing support. Neither seems to be willing to break at this point, and the daily pivot's hugging on price. So what would I be looking at here? Well, if I go back to my bias, which is on this cross short, I don't see anything that really tickles my fancy right now. Maybe the 4-hour gives me something if this candle does turn around and become bullish. That's what I'll be looking at. So not that keen on the 30 until it breaks, but the 4-hour may well be something that I'd like to look at. Aussie CAD's in this extremely tight range and just too hard to trade. In fact, the range is useless because it's only what I measure it as yesterday. I can't remember now. 25 pips or something. Yep. 25 pips. So to make money inside that range is virtually impossible unless you're an absolute genius of a scalper and actually pick the bottom at the right time, pick the top at the right time. That's something I can't do. But I do see a double bottom. I do see a higher low. So the potential for this to break to the high side is there, in particular if you look at the weekly pivot, which has gone bang, bang, bang. Is this the one that breaks it? Good question. And it again is totally against my bias to go long here, but I can definitely see the potential for that to break to the high side. The CAD would have to be fairly weak for that to happen. I would think there isn't any strong CAD news coming out, to the best of my knowledge. Oil seems to be at a plateau of a level.
Yeah.
Maybe that can reverse here. Maybe that drags the CAD down and the Aussie CAD up. Maybe. I don't know. It's too hard to call. And I'm actually going to get rid of that range because it's useless. I can't use it at all. So, not interesting, mate. Don't care. EuroCAD is a potential because we are at the bottom of the range, but we've already given this as a potential false break, which it really hasn't proved to be. It's come back on us. Yeah, okay. I suppose and the reason I've gone to a longer time frame is so I can give the false break another chance. Could this break to the low side? Is my question. Look, if I look at it from a fundamental point of view, and I think I've said this for the last 3 weeks, it hasn't really panned out. The CAD, I can't think of a reason why the CAD is not strong right now. The data coming out of Canada has been great.
Mm.
Oil is on a rally, or has been on a rally, yet the CAD is not flourishing, and I don't understand that.
I mean, is it
Should
possible that? Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, you're right. Actually, it's strange. You've been watching that CAD data of you, and it's been pretty solid.
Yeah, go back 3 weeks, it's been superb. All
Mm.
the news is great, and there's been nothing, dramatic since. So I don't know what's holding it back. Really, don't got no idea.
Mm.
But yeah, it's not performing. It's not crashing, but it's not performing either. But when I look at things like Kiwi CAD, both are commodity currencies. Kiwi was okay under pressure in terms of looked like they were going to cut interest rates. They didn't. Maybe that's why that's rallied.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Aussie CAD, they're all the same. Why are they? Why is the Aussie outperforming the CAD? Was obviously now in that consolidation we spoke of, but you can see that how reluctant price is to go below the weekly pivot. I don't get it. But then there's a lot of times in the market that I think this is just wrong. I don't understand. Untested daily pivot on euro yen. Pound yen looks to be broken through that level. Yeah, higher low here does get me interested. But that's about where I'm at, mate. I think there's definite signs for me today that the market can reverse.
Yeah, I make you right as well on the pound being probably the interesting trade, because the thing with the pound is that because it has been so battered, the actual the pricing hasn't changed. The interest rate hasn't changed on the pound to suggest that it should be negative per se. So why it should be a sell is purely down to the political situation. So
Yeah, the figure, when was it, last week or the week before? There were numbers around there that were really poor, but
yeah,
that must have been here, wasn't it? I can't remember when it was. Looks like it was here
but
through this period.
that's the thing with the pound, though, isn't it? I mean, the numbers haven't been great, but because the other currency, the other economies haven't been particularly stellar either. For this to be kind of so beaten up, it is just a case of something else kind of dragging it down, and we know what it is. We know it's down to kind of Brexit, but I think if the political situation can soften in the UK, and if Boris Johnson can soften his stance or can soften his rhetoric on Brexit, then there's a chance that the people do see the value in the pound, because it will be undervalued when we consider the relationship that it has with the other currencies, down to interest rates. It's in no different position than the other currencies are, and actually it's probably got some value against some of the other currencies if it was bought up. But people are just unwilling to buy
That's
because of
right.
the concern. So yeah, I think the pound is still an interesting, potentially an interesting currency to be looking at.
I think the counsel that I would give is get profit in the bank quickly.
Yeah,
As we did here when we last tried to get this rallying, we took profit here, and our second take profit was here. Didn't quite make it, but um, that's where I'm at with that.
mm,
Don't think you're going to get a big ride all the time. When it breaks, it will give you a big ride,
yeah,
but the potential for it to break is only potential, and those buyers have got to get interested. Once they do, look out.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but
Absolutely. Well, and maybe this is the thing with the pound is that it's so undervalued down here. If there is a positive outcome, so we're literally looking at the fact and not the speculation, but if there's a positive outcome, then there's a probability that there's every chance to trade it after the outcome has actually happened, rather than needing to get in earlier. I think this is the thing. Everybody's keen to get into the pound because they know that the potential for this one just to rocket to the upside. But it's proved so many false dawns that my stance on it is really becoming let's wait and let things resolve with Brexit, because there will still be opportunities with it so undervalued down here. Even if it flies in the first day or so, I think that there's probably a chance that it will keep going. And talking of flying, my goodness me, I've got to show you this, because this is just
what do you?
completely
Is it Bitcoin?
unrelenting. Yeah, just unrelenting. Just it went again overnight, and it's hard to know exactly what's driving it. But I'll show you the monthly chart. Look at that on the monthly chart. Interesting that it eventually did find its resistance point back here at almost 1400. It's back down to 12,300 right now, and maybe that's the point that does just kind of start moving this one right back into the lower end of the area. But I wouldn't be surprised at all after seeing such a key move in one direction that this is just picked up again. That the levels on this one look like they will probably get picked up around about the 10,005 level again. I suppose people are going to be looking at Bitcoin to buy again, but and then trying to play that upper range. But crazy month on month on month of just explosion to the upside on Bitcoin. I'm going to put up a fib on that as well and
Yeah, it's
see.
an amazing phenomenon, isn't it?
Oh mate, it's incredible, absolutely incredible. Not quite at the 61.8% retracement, but pretty damn close. That there is confluence up here that would have suggested that was the last real defense of any bears with Bitcoin. So could be a pop and drop with Bitcoin, but again, I think this is it's just a fascinating story, Bitcoin.
It sure is, and where it ends, who knows?
Yeah. So we have got a FTSE 100, which is just tested some lows, but quite happy to again pop back up again. This is what we're doing right now. It came down here and tested a lower line, and I think that might well have been not quite the pivot actually, but the chart at this stage is kind of suggesting that we get trapped in these areas, but nothing really to kind of get your teeth into. Just gonna have a quick. Oh, actually, you got new candles, haven't you, mate? Anything you want to check?
I will check quite a few. Yeah, why not? Let's
Yeah.
do that.
Okay.
We're hopeful that we're going to get an entry at some stage. Whether that's going to be now is debatable, but unless you look, you're not going to know. So let us do that. All right, we'll start from the top ops, and the Aussie is first. So look, this may not take too long, guys, because I don't think anything's ready to set up yet. Nothing there on the Aussie yet. Maybe not for a while, actually. I need to see really so strong as the move to the upside. I need to see a reversal pattern here, and I haven't got it on the 30-minute chart. So I need a double top or a bearish engulfing bar at the top, or maybe even head and shoulders through here. That's possible. But yeah, there's no trade there at the moment, that's for sure. And I am thinking short. Cable, I'm thinking long, and that's an interesting little break. What I would like to see now is a bear bar here. Now, if I were to get that, let me get rid of that. If I were to get a bear bar here now, let me have a little measure. Yeah, I'd like to see it come back to the daily pivot, or something near to there, or even back down to here would do. But I need to see a retracement now. I could definitely look at that as a buy. Well, I like this formation. Triple bottom, higher low. That looks good to me. So yeah, the bullish attitude that I have has not been quashed in any way, shape, or form. But I don't see an entry. This is not an entry for me right now. I need to see a bit of a pullback. It may just go whooshka, and if that's the case, I'm going to miss out. But it's the way it is, and there's not much I can do about that. I have to play by the rules. If you look across here, to be absolutely fair, we're at the top of a range right now. So I'll put that in. I've got ranges on on cable. That's not really a high, but I'll use it for now because it's a level. There's no question it's a level, and the other level's probably in here somewhere. So we're right at the top of the range, in my opinion, and the potential for this to reverse off here is as high on a short-term basis as it is to go long. So that's why I don't want to enter here. It's too much of a call. But a retracement here gives me the opportunities to say, okay, if price is going that way and continues to go that way, I don't care. But if it doesn't, and if it finds support in this level, and my entry's here, then it should come through here with a bit of meaning behind it. So that's why I'd be looking to trade that long, but not yet. Now the euro, I want to trade short, but I'm kind of in the land of no one at the moment. I need price to get to a confluence area, and that best way for that to happen for me is to break long, consolidate, get back underneath both the trend line and the daily pivot, and then retest the confluence area. Then I'm short. As you can see, I'm going to have to be patient Pete for quite a while today, because I'm looking for reversals very much. So what I see here is a bullish engulfing bar. Potential, well, maybe, looks like, could be. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. A bit of a double bottom here. We've got a shoulder here. We maybe got a head here. Maybe we've got a shoulder over here. I'm not sure. But the one thing I can't do is trade long at the moment, because I'll be trading straight into an untested daily pivot. That's unhealthy for me, because the daily pivot has this potential to rebuke price and turn it in the opposite direction. How far, we don't know, and that, of course, is the burning question always. Can I trade it long? Technically, I can, but I want to see a significant higher low here. I guess the best way to look at this is let price break and hit the daily pivot, then pull back off it, hit the backside of this trend line, and then look to trade it long from there. That makes sense to me. So I want this to break, test the daily pivot, or even break the daily pivot, then a subsequent candle come back and retest the top side of this trend line, and then we can go. That's what I'll be looking for on pound Aussie. Aussie yen is at our resistance level, as you can see, and we need to again look for probably a false break of resistance. I've got a bearish engulfing bar, maybe a little bit of price action down to here, and then pull back, give me a lower high. That becomes interesting. Got an untested daily pivot. Couldn't possibly trade this long, um, but I need to have a little bit of price action going with me to be able to trade it short as well. So we need a sell, then maybe a little bit buy to up into this 75.50 area. Then we can look to trade it short down to the daily pivot. Euro Aussie, I am a bull, and what we've got here is again way potential, but long time to come. Potential left, potential head, potential right over here, and the way we would look at that again up to the daily pivot, back to here, retest the shoulder, and that becomes a right shoulder. Then wait for the neckline to be. Can you see what I'm saying? Long time from now, but that doesn't stop me from imagining what may happen. Can I trade it to the daily pivot? Is my question, and the question is no, really, because I don't have a genuine reversal pattern here, and I'd need to see that and then a higher low before I can trade it. So answer's no on Euro Aussie. Euro Pound, this is looking a little bit better for us on the 4-hour chart. I'm not talking 4-hour charts at the moment, but with an hour and 23 minutes to go, if this were to be a bullish decisive bar, then there is an entry below this, and I'm on Euro Pound, and I'm thinking short. Obviously, you want to take profit before this trend line and weekly pivot area, but if that does look like a bullish decisive bar when this candle closes in an hour and 23 minutes, then that's exactly what I'll look to do. Just explaining to you again, we've had a break. We put in a double top, which matches this top here, and that is looking like a re-entry below the broken trend line. This is looking like a retest of that, and that's exactly what I'll be looking to trade. So that's Euro Pound short, but not. Oh, look at the 30-minute chart. Isn't that why I'm here? Yes, it is. You can see the last bar, and we spoke about this at the time, has tried to test both the resistance and support areas and failed on both occasions, and as we suggested, settled on the daily pivot as its little parking place. I don't see this changing anytime soon because, well, I've traded this many times before, and it's a little bit adventurous. I'm just going to have a look at it now. Yeah, it's too small. The candle's too small. If it was double the size, then I would look to trade it in both directions because we're in a range here. I've got no idea which way this is going to break, to be fair, but the size of the candle worries me. I've only got 6 pips, pretty much one side, or 5 pips one side, 7 the other. So any retracement here, similar to what we've just seen, is going to take me out. If it were a bigger bar and testing the resistance and testing the support, I'd be happy to put an entry long here and an entry short here and cancel whichever one doesn't trigger. If you want to be adventurous on a very small risk basis, then it's not the worst thing to do here. But because of the size of the candle, I'm not going to be entertaining that thought. Finally, I think Aussie CAD, another one of the ones that I'm bearish on. Not so much as the others that I've got a firm opinion on, because really we're not at the highs or the lows where we are on most of those others I've spoken about. But I do see the opportunity here to break the line, find the resistance area, get back below it, retest it, and trade it short. No entries yet, mate, but nothing that I'm seeing is bothering me. Everything seems to be okay. I like the look of this on pound US dollar. That retest, if it were to come down to here, looks really juicy for me as a long. We'll see.
Well, the FTSE is just taking. Oh, thanks for that, mate. Yeah, nice little roundup. The just the FTSE back onto this one again is just making a drive to the upside. Let me show you what we got here. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, FTSE is making a drive to the upside, trying to take out this weekly pivot, and it may well get there. Just draw this other line back in place here, because this is the key. A little bit bigger, so it's easier to see. That's the key area just there, which we can tighten up. Yeah, it looks like we're right on top of it, but it's certainly making a pretty good plump for that price right now. Make sure that flips down to the hourly. Yeah, so we're right on top of that, mate. I mean, it looks like a break above that line could actually take this FTSE 100 significantly higher. Yeah, I'm still a little bit suspicious of it, I suppose. I mean, we still haven't really got any meat on the bones, but yeah, I mean, this market just does not want to be coming back at all. It's just not showing any signs of abating. When I looked around the grounds, actually, I checked the S&P, and the S&P was just starting to weaken as well. You know, it was just coming off its level a little bit. It's on this weekly pivot, so maybe a suggestion for some weakness there. But the technical area might be weak, but it looks like the risk is back on, and it's just whether it can break through. I mean, surely this is one of those things that we would look at, isn't it, to see whether this area does actually provide a false break? Because if that becomes false, is this an area that you'd be looking at a short potentially at that lower bar if this area just doesn't quite break through here?
Not without further proof. I'd like to see that resistance line go. In other words, I'd like to see it broken, and then rebroken the other way.
Yes, yeah. So broken to the upside, closing, and then break to the downside.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's given a pretty good go. I just had a quick check around the grounds as well on the heat maps, and the heat maps are fairly solid. You know, when we kind of like look over at this this is the live heat map, and the live heat map there's a fair amount of blue here, and then if we kind of like just do a little 15-minute delay just so you can see what's been going on with the market. We're still pretty positive when it comes down to this as well. Well, actually, that's only 52%. It is on a 15-minute delay, so I'll double check that. That strength there, but 53% on that one. But quite a lot of blue there. Still a little bit of red. Significantly, I think the fact that we've got some of these mining stocks pushing higher, Rio Tinto, BHP, and I saw Lloyd's as well, the banking stocks as well, moving higher. So some of the smaller markets are the ones that, or some of the smaller companies are the ones that are in the red. Unilever being sold off as a stock of real protection may well be significant as well. But certainly at this stage, mate, not looking looking like this market is too concerned with the G20 meeting. So we are going to wait and see what happens in this particular run, and the only way we'll really know that is by the top of the hour. But let's check the top of the hour to see whether this is actually going to continue to move to the upside. I wonder whether even if we close in this area here, that any retracement to the weekly pivot will encourage traders to have another go at some upside. But yeah, this one just doesn't seem to want to come back at this particular stage. Could be waiting for maybe another hour before there's any easing to the downside, just because of the meeting. But we have broken through yesterday's high, and again, this could be significant as well. The fact that we've broken through yesterday's high, we need to see now some follow through. This is yesterday's high bar, and actually it's taken out a couple of these highs, so we need to see some follow through to really trust the upside. But let's see what happens at the top of the hour and see if it still remains up here, or if it just gets pushed back down to this level. But I just can't see the reason, mate. That's the thing I'm really struggling with here. I just can't see any reason that the FTSE would start to take off at this level.
Yeah, look, I'm the same with the Aussie, mate, but it keeps doing it for some reason. And again, it's challenging the highs. I don't understand it, but all I have to do is follow it, I guess. Without understanding, it becomes very frustrating. That's the problem. I like to know, rather than guess. It's well,
Yeah.
when no, it's never a no situation, but it's if you line up all the ducks, and it still doesn't make sense. That's when I start to question. I think, well, okay, maybe I'm better off going to the pub or something because if I'm not
Yeah.
understanding,
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? You can kind of get caught into a market that you just and the thing is, it's not that the market isn't something that is there to understand. Of course, it is. It's not too tricky on some days to understand what's going on. Sometimes things are just really clear, but other times the market is just a bit confounding. And I think it's just one of those scenarios I'm looking at and just thinking this market is just getting a bit ahead of itself. Now, that doesn't necessarily kind of bring warning alarm bells to suggest that it's going to necessarily come back, but it just appears that it's just getting a little bit just a little bit overcooked and a little bit overconfident about upside, um, and anything can still happen. That's the key here. Anything can still happen.
that was my point. If you do choose to go to the pub, guess what happens when you come back from the pub? The move's been made,
Yeah,
and you've missed out. So
yeah, yeah,
it's not a time when the market's running away from your bias. And I've been saying this for more than 24 hours now. To pack up and go home, it's really the time where you need to concentrate because
yeah,
if you're right, then you're going to get a pretty good opportunity at some stage to trade it back to where you think it should be.
yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at the moment. I unfortunately I've got commitments later on that I won't be able to be in front of the charts, but as every opportunity I get, I'll be looking at these.
Well, it might not even be till tomorrow, mightn't it, mate? That's the thing.
Or who knows?
I mean, it might not be till Monday because but the other thing that we've got coming very very soon is a close of the month,
Yeah,
um, and
that's right.
what can happen, and this is just about the different periods in the market. What can happen is
Not
with
any.
what's that mean?
It's not any month either.
No, no, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, we're kind of. I'll do the statistics soon on July. But what's interesting is that you can have. Well, in fact, this expresses it really nicely. We had 1 month where the market absolutely tanked, and then the next month it turned around and did absolutely the opposite. And we may well get the same thing. It might be that we get into July and we have a bullish close in June, but then the market just starts to come into the opposite direction and just goes the other way. So there's no guarantees here for anything really.
Be nice if you could get some guarantees. That would be nice.
Oh yeah, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Well, we get a guarantee after the weekend anyway, but because of the resolution of a meeting, but one way or the other. I mean, we're going to know something. I would have thought. Mike Pompeo has come out and said that that the trade deal is 90% done. So I think that is kind of buoying the markets, and that there's certainly some positivity, that's still filtered in from yesterday. But as I said yesterday, that as I said earlier, Donald Trump
Hang
then
on.
came back and said the trade deal, if it doesn't get done, then there's going to be a slap of tariffs. So there's just nothing right now, but we should know on Monday or already by Saturday whether there is some sort of resolution in that trade dispute.
You can't believe what they say. That's half the problem.
Absolutely.
It's spin. It's meant
Yeah.
to appease people or pump them up, one or the other.
Yeah.
And
And Donald Trump will not be held it will not be held to account on this stuff.
never, never his fault.
No.
It's
No.
always some.
No. So well, it's a waiting game, mate. And the other part of the waiting game really is 1:30. So we'll know by 1:30 what the Fed will have a little bit further picture on the Fed to see what they are likely to be doing as well. And if the Fed have decent numbers from that GDP rate release, then maybe we would maybe we would not get any positive, any further moves to the upside if that GDP number comes out and it is a decent print. But I think that's what we're waiting for. That's what I'm going to wait for now. Anyway, I'm gonna wait for the GDP release and then see what happens after that.
All right, mate. Happy days. I think pound, in particular, cable. I'll be looking for this current bar on the 30-minute chart to close around the daily pivot. That would get me long. And the other one is that 4-hour scenario on Shivers Me Timbers. What was it? 4-hour. Euro pound? I think it was Euro pound, wasn't it? Yeah, Euro pound. Looking good right now. The bar is starting to gain a little bit of momentum. So if that's a bullish decisive bar, providing it's not 200 pips, then I'll look to trade that short. It needs to be, kind of 20 pips though on a 4-hour chart. I don't want to be trading anything too small. So 20 pip plus if it's bullish and decisive. So it needs to get up around about the 89.70 mark before I'd really like to look at it. Okay, so it looks like Ash has crashed out, which is fine because guess what? We're at the end of the show anyway, guys. I don't have anything else to add. It is pound US dollar long for me if the candle that's currently forming closes around about the daily pivot. Those of you who don't have a daily pivot, that level is at 126.83.5. So that's where I'd like price to get to, and close around there would be even better. Then I would look to trade pound US dollar long above the current 30-minute bar. Righto, folks, that is the end of the show and the week for us. We'll be back. Actually, I think we're back next Monday. We're going to have a week or so off, so we will catch up with you guys in the not too distant future. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye-bye for now.